our garden wall. I hear the sirens call. You can have what you want. Yeah, you can have it all over our garden wall.
Hello there. As we got to the end of the greatest Scottish albums discussion, we've been keen to try and get some of the artists that connected to some of the most popular albums to come and have a chat to us. And I was delighted to say that today we managed to get Malcolm Ross to join us. Malcolm's probably been in more great Scottish bands than any other guitarist, and he was in Orange Juice around the time of Rip It Up and a little bit after that. And it was great to hear his reflections on both joining into Orange Juice, and he had a couple of interesting stories about that, the recording of the album in London, and the subsequent kind of performance and hit singles and being on top of the pops and all that kind of stuff. Fascinating insight, great guy, knows his stuff, of course, and as I say, added a lot of value to Orange Juice at the time and in subsequent bands since then. Myself and Colin had great fun talking to him, and it's a really nice way for us to get to the end of the Scottish album discussion. So I hope you'll enjoy this one when you get the chance to watch it. Thanks again for sticking with us over the last few months, and we will see you on the other side. All the best now. Stay safe. Hello there, and welcome to a bonus episode of Bass City Polars, the music podcast, where we've been working out what a list of the greatest Scottish albums has been. We finished that about a week or so ago, but we had an ambition to try and get some of the artists connected to some of the albums that made the finals to come and have a chat to us, and we'll be managing to get through those over the last couple of weeks. So today I am delighted to say that we have the Scottish guitarist, singer, songwriter Malcolm Ross joining us. Malcolm, good afternoon.
Hi there, Brian.
Nice to see you, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
That's okay.
And we also have one of our resident podcast panel, Colin McCready. Hi, Colin.
Hi Malcolm. As you can see, I've brought the records.
Right.
Fanboy stroke stalker.
Yeah.
You won't get it signed from there, Colin.
Okay, I'll try.
Kind of virtual swiggle on it, right? So Malcolm, I just a kind of quick explanation of what we've been up to. So we did some Scottish album polling over the kind of winter, really, to give us something to do before spring came along, and we voted in about 150 albums on X, and we did a bit of a knockout thing, and then at the end of that we had like a sudden death type cup final, and the last four albums we had nominated included Rip It Up by Orange Juice. So that was why we were hoping to have a wee chat to you today about Orange Juice, but a bit more specifically about Rip It Up, if that works for you.
Aye, magic.
Okay. And Colin will chip in as and where he wants to kind of add some questions. So can I just take you back a little bit to, I guess, the kind of back end of Joseph K, and then kind of what happened after that? Do you want to just kind of a wee bit of summary of what you were up to at that point?
Yeah, well, it was quite just when Joseph K split up. I mean, actually, just the day it happened, because we were in Glasgow, and Edwin's sort of said to me, "Oh, look, why don't you come and play in Orange Juice?" Because we did just recorded "You Can't Hide Your Love Forever," but it hadn't been released yet.
Okay.
And obviously there was keyboards on it. Edwin was worried about getting his singing better, and so he thought if he didn't have to worry so much about playing guitar. So that was his idea, that I would come in and play some keyboards, play some guitar, so he didn't have to.
Okay. And you obviously knew the guys well from that kind of original postcard time, and
yes, I knew them very well. Done lots of gigs together, and I'd been in the studio with them when they recorded two of the postcard singles, From Laughing and Simply Thrilled Honey. So yeah, it was kind of seemed quite natural, really.
Okay. And not a bad couple of singles to be connected to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fundamentally, changed the shape of lots of, well, certainly Scottish music, but maybe indie music a bit more generally. That was the kind of kickoff of it all. So, okay, so Joseph K finished, and was that a surprise at the time? Was that just a natural thing, or what? How did?
Um, I think it was just a natural thing. It was a shame, we're just so young. You forget,
Mm,
I mean, both my sons are now older than I was when I'd stopped playing in Orange Juice. It's
yeah,
like, so when you look at them and thinking the decisions you had to make, because obviously, if Joseph K had been sensible, we would have maybe said, "Oh, let's just take a break for a few months and then come back." But then it was like, "No, I'm leaving," and had to be dramatic, and that's the end. And yeah,
I just think that's so cool, Malcolm, that in the morning you were in Joseph K, and then by tea time you're in Orange Juice. Two of the most
yeah,
iconic
it was
bands in the
weird.
same day. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
But I made it about the whole split up because we were playing a gig in Glasgow and Paul had said, "Oh, this is the last gig I'm doing. I'm done with doing gigs." Um, Paul finds performing quite nerve-wracking. So so when he said that, our relationship was such that I was kind of like, "Oh, he's not doing any more gigs. Okay, well that's it then, But in the huff, and so yeah, it was a bit of a. And then when I arrive at the gig and Paul's saying, "So what do you think you'll do if we're splitting up?" I said, "No, I'm just going to join Orange Juice." Like, so could have been better.
as you say, Colin, that kind of a day in the life.
Yeah.
24 hours with Malcolm Ross. That it can't be.
Well, I can't wait to find out on the day he left Orange Juice to join Aztec Camera, Malcolm. This is just
That
going to get
took
even
a
better.
couple of weeks, I think.
Oh, that was weeks. Yeah, that was weeks apart, right?
Well, the thing that struck me was Edwin just said no join Orange Juice, and I was saying, well, you'll need to check with the rest of them, won't you? And he was like, no. So that says something about.
And how did that land? So I think the first album hadn't come out when you joined them. Is that correct?
No, no, that's
Right.
right. It was
Okay.
just waiting to be released.
So you're now a fight. The album's pretty much recorded, I guess. But
Yeah, it's
you,
finished. It's
right?
completely, had nothing to do with the
Yeah.
first album,
So
so.
you join the band and you now become a five-piece. You're still waiting on the debut album coming out, and is there a kind of new dynamic, I guess, to the band at that point? Extra guitarist, Edwin's guys coming to join them, that kind of thing.
For things to improve, because Orange Juice, it was kind of disintegrating. I noticed that when I started trying to play with them, there wasn't really much camaraderie or anything in that five-piece band. We did somebody would always be not speaking to somebody else or something. Or
Yeah, and how did that play out then? So by the time, I guess when the album came out, were you doing some gigs and stuff to promote the
no,
first? No,
not as a five-piece. By the time
no,
the album came out, it was down to the four-piece again with Zeke and I.
right,
Um,
okay,
so
and
we toured to promote "You Can't Hide Your Love Forever."
okay,
Yeah.
and and by this point, I guess had Edwin moved on a little bit, was he maybe thinking about the next album and how to kind of start pulling that together?
Yeah, well, it was part of that whole, the Zeitgeist at the time was just, oh, we should be in the charts. It's not, if you really want to be radical and, maybe affect things, you have to be in the chart and selling your records.
Hmm.
Um, which was a kind of false thing. I don't think it really made for great music being made. But I mean, some, say Bob Last would have had the same idea with the Human League. He
Yeah.
didn't want the Human League to be some sort of artist synthesizer art band. He thought, no, they should actually be in the charts. And he did it pretty successfully by, you know, severing the band in half and moving it on. But I mean, it wasn't just Bob, it wasn't just sort of Alan Horn and Edwin or Paul Hay when he went solo, because he went very pop as well.
Mm.
It was just that was what was the time, you
I
know.
suppose you had Altered Images and probably the Bluebells doing the same sort of thing at the time.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
starting off indie, but by 82, 83, were full
Yep.
on commercial, weren't they? Signed to
Yeah,
majors.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. And so I mean that was and I suppose it had kind of started with the first album, which, the production on the first Orange Juice album was obviously slicker than the postcard production, but not by much, I don't think, looking
Hmm.
back in now. I mean, more time was put into the recording. But anyway, so that's where it was. So it was like, Edwin was like, no, we must have a hit single. That was the kind of be all and end all, get on top of the pops.
Okay, we'll make him on to Top of the Pops in a minute. So where did you record the album?
We recorded Rip It Up album in Berwick Street Studios in Berwick Street,
London.
Soho, London, which was great. I mean, Berwick Street's a great street. It's got a market on it, a fruit and vegetable market. So it's kind of bustling during the day. And then at night, you're kind of in Soho with all the sort of atmosphere. A small studio, not one of the big, but Edwin, David, and Zeke had done a session there for another Glaswegian actor. What's his name? Joe McKenna, he was called. He was
Oh yeah,
on Nation Street. Um,
yeah. God,
that,
that's funny. I was reading about him, and he was a friend of Rupert Everett.
that's
He
right. Yeah.
features in Rupert Everett's, and I had to go and look him up. But yeah, he was this kind of good-looking Glasgow pop star actor, and I think
Yeah.
he's still alive. So, that's I
Right.
didn't know that. That's
See, him
amazing.
and Edwin and David were friends just from Glasgow, and he wanted to make a record. So he'd hired the studio, Berwick Street Studios, which is, it wasn't a big expensive one. It was fine, but it's pretty cheap. And the engineer was this guy called Martin Hales. And when they went and did that session for Joe, they got on really well with Martin, and they thought, oh, let's go and record with him there. So that's how recording there and using Martin as the producer came about.
So there was the core of the four of you as a core band, and then did you just bring in some like session musicians and stuff for the add-ons?
Yeah, quite
Yeah,
a lot of session musicians for
yeah.
that one.
And
Uh-huh.
did that include? I was reading up. Did that include Dick Morrissey, the
Yep.
saxophonist?
Dick Morrissey plays the saxophone solo on Rip It Up.
Yeah, I mean he's got some CV, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's great. I mean, Martin's was really well connected with the kind of London soul jazz scene.
Yeah,
He'd been a trumpeter and keyboard player on lots of good things.
yeah.
So yeah, so we've got Dick Morrissey. I can't remember the violinist's name who plays on Mud in Your Eye. Gavin. He'll be on the album. You can look up. He was
Colin's
a
Gavin
checking.
Wright,
there.
Gavin Wright, who's
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
he if you check him, he's a really
yeah,
good and
he's
he
in loads of stuff.
runs string sections for
Yeah.
people and things like that. Yeah, so but
What
no,
was Soho in 1981, 82? New Romantics? Was it like a real exciting place to be
I mean,
after
it's
being
not
coming
like
from
there was a
Edinburgh?
lot of new romantics coming about in 1981. There was
Yeah.
goths, a lot of goths, because we were quite close to what's the studio called that Bowie used and everything. Sorry.
Oh, the one off Regent Street, yeah.
Yeah, and Soft Cell were recording there, I think. I remember there was always all the gothic Soft Cell fans would be standing about waiting out there to see if Mark would come out. Yeah.
So you
So
didn't have a lot of makeup on then.
nah.
He didn't need it, Colin. He
I
didn't need it.
know. Chiseled good looks.
Just all good looks. And how long were you down there? Was it like kind of block, or did you go down a few times, or?
No, it was a block. I mean, I would come up, I was just probably quite recently married and so I
Hmm.
was to get back to Edinburgh and things. But I'm trying to think. Must have been 6 weeks,
Okay.
2 months maybe. It was a long time. It was
Hmm.
pretty much that summer.
Hmm.
Um,
And it sounds kind of, it certainly doesn't sound like a postcard album. It sounds like much more of a produced record. It's quite a full sound. Doesn't really sound particularly 80s, I don't think. The
no,
sound.
I hadn't listened to it for ages. I meant to, so I didn't get round to it this morning. But I listened to it with one of my sons maybe about a year, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised what a good sounding
Mm,
record. It's the actual sound of the record. It's
totally.
really punchy and powerful, as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite, I don't know if classy is the right word, but it kind of, it feels a wee bit timeless, the sound on it.
Yeah, which
Um,
is good, I think, because
yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have those because a song I heard the other day, so and I'm not slagging the band at all, Rose and Jill, they were great, but their big hit, Strawberry Switchblade, the drums on that are just ridiculous. Because it's quite a nice, mellow, wee
Yeah,
soft
yeah, yeah.
song, and Rose has got a nice, soft, wee voice, and the drums are like,
It's like
the biggest,
it's like Phil Collins or something,
electronic
isn't
drum
it? Yeah.
sound. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good we managed to avoid pretty mostly we managed to avoid the studio sounds of the time that we'd just date it.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
there
I
you
think
go.
it for me,
I
it's
think
maybe only like a bit. Some of the saxophone sounds, that was we
Yep.
always needed to have a sax solo. But
Yeah.
other than that, I think it sounds, and even like your song "Turn Away," do you mean
Uh,
that's still got a kind of Joseph K feel to it,
yeah.
and it's pretty. I just again like you hadn't listened to it for a while, and some absolutely brilliant songs on it.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
agree.
Yep.
Did
Yeah.
you have
No,
that song, Malcolm?
it was quite
Did you bring that
sorry.
song with you, or did you bring that to the recording?
Yeah,
Or
it's kind of based on one of the Joseph K songs that had
yeah,
never been released at the time. Yeah.
okay.
So
Because it does sound
so
a bit more, I don't know, angular or something. It's got a wee bit more of an edge to it than some
yeah.
of like
Yeah.
Edwin's kind of led stuff as well. And then you get the Zake stuff kind of kicking around with the
Yeah,
rhythms
the
and the
Afro beat coming in.
goodness
But no,
me, like
it's quite an
bonkers.
eclectic mix, really. Because then
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
things like Louise, Louise, which was a really one of Edwin's early songs,
yeah.
which I mean, maybe the production wasn't completely sympathetic to that. That could have done with being a wee bit raw, or maybe Louise, Louise, but the whole album, no, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's great.
And once it was
Breakfast
done,
Time's a great one.
what was that? Sorry.
Breakfast Time's a really great song.
Yeah, yeah. There's some belters on it, Malcolm. And when it was finished, so the plan was to try and get a hit single,
Yep.
and I guess get on top of pops and do some touring and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think Rip It Up, was that the second single? I think you
yeah.
just can't help myself.
And Rip It Up, I mean, this goes to show, like, Can't Help Myself was a big hope for the single.
Yeah, love
And
it.
it was going to come out before we'd even finished making the album. I think we had that finished, and that was going to come out, and then the album would come out, I think.
Yeah,
And we needed a B-side for I Can't Help Myself. So we were kind of, well, let's just record something quickly, kind of throwaway. And Edwin was like, well, I've got these chords, we can use these, this will work. And that was Rip It Up. It was going to be the B-side to I Can't Help Myself. And
oh,
then
that,
when we finished it, I was like, well, that's actually really good, isn't it? Let's keep it for the album and put something else on the B-side of I Can't Help Myself.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's magic.
so
So
Amazing.
mm,
you're right. The first, I don't know why it wasn't a hit single. Can't help myself because it's wonderful. And so
According
obviously,
to the record, it was.
no, the sticker.
very good. That must be the wrong sticker, Colin, is it?
I
No,
don't know. I
I
love
remember
that
the
sticker.
stickers.
Yeah, so Rip It Up does come out, and I mean, to be fair, I mean, not only was it a hit, but it kind of hung around for quite a long time, didn't it? It
Hmm,
was, it was kind of
yeah,
one of those songs of 80, was it 83, right?
yeah. Well, I think it has something quite special about it because recording it was really fun because we did think, well, this is a B-side.
Right,
So, Edmund had all his weird ideas, like just having, one of those kind of weird sounds on it is Edmund's guitar had been plugged into a phase pedal. So then he unplugged the guitar and he was just tapping the jack lead on a bit of metal.
right.
So you get that. We did things like that because it wasn't like we were thinking, oh, this is going to be our big single. We have to make sure it's going to be radio friendly, etc.
Yeah,
Recorded it in a kind of joyous, enjoyable manner,
yeah.
thinking it was just going to be a B-side. And that worked better than when we were actually trying to make sure it was going to be pop.
Isn't that amazing? Because it sounds a very happy song.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds quite young and vibrant, and as you say, probably no pressure at all at the
It
time.
sounds like I would always thought it would have been the hit single on the album that would have been known all along, and it's the fact it just happened to become this single's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we realised it was good because then that's why the album's called Rip It Up. We thought, well, first it was B-side, then it was, no, it's good, keep it on the album, make it an album track. Then it was, oh, it's really good, make it the title track.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then second single. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then you get the Top of the Pops nod.
Yeah.
So what happens there is you get a shout to go down, I guess. How does all that happen?
Oh, I mean, we'd been waiting for that for ages, and then it was right, we're in the top 10, that's it, Top of the Pops. And yeah, and it was great. It was exciting. You'd wanted always been something
Yeah.
you wanted to do. Somebody of my generation. Um, and you're up at the BBC and you see the two Ronnies in the bar and all that. It's really exciting. And then we did it again 2 weeks later because we still got up and we were sick of it by then. It was kind of like, oh, this is boring. And we got a bit drunk and,
Yeah.
orange juice. It was,
And
yeah.
is the story right that were you sort of technically banned from Top of the Pops, or was it just that it was frowned upon, David
Yeah,
being in the
David, because
crowd and
David was
stuff?
being quite, and he jumped from, like, we had Jim Furwell, who he is,
Yep,
Fetus, miming the sax solo,
yep.
with Dick Morrissey's permission. And he was on a kind of separate podium. Oh, they'd annoyed us because I really hated, they had the kind of Top of the Pops dancers. They didn't have a name at the time, but they were doing this thing when they were dancing and ripping up bits of paper. And I was a bit like, it's like, that's snap. And I was saying to the kind of Polydor guy, like, yeah, tell him
Yeah.
not to do that. And he was saying, well, you can't decide what they do. The producers, had enough. And I was saying, well, look, tell them they're not allowed to mouth the words of the song because I was looking at them and they were actually going, rip it up. Because that makes it look like they're singers. So they can't do that. So we're having this kind of squabble. And David, because you're there a long time, I think it was maybe a live show. It would have been a live show.
Mm.
And you get there at 9:30 in the morning and you do camera rehearsals. So you're just hanging around at the BBC. And second time, we were bored with it by then. So we're just like, um,
It's
yeah.
great TV. It's great TV.
Yeah,
I suppose you're looking back a little bit through the prism of time, but it's
but-
a little bit anarchic almost, really.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's quite, but I remember Edwin saying afterwards, oh, I don't know what David's doing, he's acting like he's in the bad seeds or something, and we're a pop, it's like a nice wee pop song we're promoting.
Yeah.
But the first appearance on Top of the Pops, which you never really see if it comes up on the old cable TV, um, uh, and I think David and I are wearing suits, and
Yeah. Pretty cool band. The
it's
first
quite,
one.
yeah, it's quite
Yeah,
smart.
Edmund's got his shades on and stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It just shows you two weeks of pop star. Look what happens to you, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
amazing.
Flesh of My Flesh came out as a single, and I
Yeah.
was just sure. I thought, well,
Mm.
Rip It Up's been a hit. Flesh of My Flesh is as good as Rip It Up. This
Mhm.
will be another huge hit. And it was, I think, the most played song on Radio 1 2 weeks in a row or something.
Mm.
And it just didn't crack the top 40. I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Totally weird. Public taste then.
yep.
Public taste. What do they know? So do you guys went out and toured a bit, I think, with the album and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We were busy.
pretty good band. There's quite a lot of video footage of you. There's a particularly good gig from the Hacienda.
Yep. Yeah,
It's like a dozen songs, isn't there, on YouTube? And
yeah.
I think, also it's hard to see through a video, but it sounds pretty good, and the audience seemed quite engaged by it all, and really nice set
Oh,
list
we
as well.
were. You've got us on the old Great Whistle Test playing
Hmm.
live. One time with Martin Hales, playing the keyboards and all that. But when it was just a four-piece, and when we kind of moved on from that, I think we did become really a pretty exciting, and we were very tight. David
Mm.
and Zeke were a brilliant rhythm section,
Mm.
and Edwin and I could do the guitar playing. Not
Yeah,
bad.
Jake was in a lot of my world at the time because I was a big Style Council fan,
Right?
and of course
Yeah,
they kind of launched at about the same time, and he
yeah.
was on the first few singles, and yeah,
That's
kind of
it.
came from nowhere in my world to kind of being in everything that I saw or heard. So
Yeah, yep.
yeah, pretty cool
And
guy.
he played in the on
He
Matt's
did.
first kind of recordings as well.
He
Yeah.
did. He's a cracking CV. And the reviews for the album were good. I think you mentioned about, coming out that sort of postcard sound,
The
and
reviews for Rip It Up.
the album were pretty good. Yeah.
No, no, they were
No,
terrible.
no. It's, again, with the benefit of hindsight, they actually were pretty
Right?
good. So I read a review. I mean, there was a few. The more snobby magazines probably gave them a bit more of a hard time. But
Yeah, well, maybe it was the ones that. I mean, I really have never, in all honesty, cared about reviews. It's like you just have to take them because Joseph K used to get some terrible reviews. We'd get some great ones, but you also got the terrible ones, and you realise quite quickly, I think, well, what can you do? You can't control it. You can't start making music for critics.
no,
That would be just a terrible thing to do. So you just have to take them. But I remember the day after the music press had come out and reviewed Rip It Up, Edwin was in a deep depression. I remember arriving at rehearsals and he was sitting with them spread out on the floor, with them spread out round about him, like, woe is me, this is, you know. And I was kind of going, well, let's rehearse, go on, what's this? And he was like, no, don't you realise how important this is? We're not, because he was used to being a press darling. He had been a real press darling, so.
But that was always going to happen, probably, when you signed a major, and
Yeah, that's right.
they're always going to. And I take it that for you, Malcolm, did you ever get snooty, from your kind of indie pals about being on a major and going on top of the pops, or would folk have been jealous or
No, a few people were like, yeah, what you did,
sold out?
well, not so much sold out, but why aren't you doing something that's, I mean, I think Orange Juice always had great artistic values. It wasn't just like, it wasn't like I was in modern romance, something like,
Aye,
you
aye, aye,
know,
aye, you say.
I mean, Edwin is a really, talented
Iconic,
person,
yeah.
it's like, so, and maybe he was kind of not misguided because nobody really guides him, he guides himself, but
Hmm.
maybe he was going up a blind alley in the whole, pursuit of the hit single.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this will cheer him up more or less, but on the basis that it was looking to be a little bit more pop and successful, the best review the album got was from Neil Tennant in the Smash Hits
Right.
magazine,
Yeah, that's
which was quite
interesting, isn't
important
it?
at the time, with
Yeah.
they
Yep.
carried a lot of clout, right? And
Okay.
he rated it 8 out of 10. And I
Right.
actually scribbled down, he said, no one can accuse them of being twee anymore. Big step
Right.
forward for the band.
Right. And that was Neil Tennant.
That was Neil
Right.
Tennant.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, as I say, I don't know if that's good or bad thing, but with hindsight, but certainly it had that pop
I'm a great
sensibility that,
admirer of Neil Tennant, really.
yeah, absolutely. So there you are. There was some good reviews out there.
Right.
Uh,
It was
and
the NME Melody Maker and Sounds. Those were the
ah,
ones that would have really mattered to.
what do they know? What do
Yeah.
they know? So
Malcolm was
sorry,
sorry, Brian.
all
Was
yours,
Alan
mate.
Horn around at all?
No,
He'd
no.
totally gone.
He would, during the Rip Up recordings, yeah, Alan wasn't really on the scene at all. No, no. Because it was kind of postcard, and
Yeah.
so there was still the debris of that, and trying to work out what exactly had happened with all the
Mhm.
record sales, kind of, what's the word, accounting when it's in the past.
Hmm.
The word for it. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and I know you done some stuff in the UK. Did you do some kind of European shows and stuff like that? No?
No, you see, again, this was an annoying thing that because of Zeke didn't actually have a passport. Zeke had some kind of international document because Zeke was actually a refugee when he came to Britain. So, so we couldn't go abroad because he might not have got back
Right.
in. So, and it should have been taken care of quickly, but I don't know if Zeke was that. Anyway, it was a kind of real source of annoyance. But
Yeah.
again, I remember Edwin saying, I don't really care. I don't, he wasn't that bothered about going abroad. Whereas I would have liked to, it'd been good to have gone to America and just,
Yeah.
put a toe in the water and toured Europe. So no, Orange Juice, while I was in the band and while Zeke was in the band with me, never played outside the UK.
Okay.
Well,
That's a
we did
shame.
Dublin. We
Dublin.
went to Dublin because you didn't really need a passport.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a shame. Because
yeah, it was.
yeah, I think certainly mainland Europe, I think would have received that kind of sound pretty well. They liked
Yeah,
the kind of pop stuff, didn't they? So,
yeah, definitely.
and what happened after that then? So you've done the album, you've done some touring, you've had hit singles, and then you are, I guess, back in the studio to kind of have another go, I guess.
Yeah, with
So how did all that feel? Because you ended up, I think, come out of that. I think Texas Fever came out of that first, did it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
came. No, it was. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought the
yeah,
band was really developed well. Like, you were saying, we became a really pretty good four-piece
yeah,
type and realized we don't need keyboard live to kind of, you know, and the songs that we had going into the studio to start Texas Fever were like Bridge, the song Bridge, that was a
yeah,
single, and the actual song Texas Fever. Um,
really good.
which I thought were really strong,
Mm.
you know.
Why was it only a mini LP?
Because it fell apart while we were in the
Right.
studio, because Edwin hadn't really had time to write enough songs for an album. And we just thought, oh, look, we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of jam things in the studio. And David and I thought that was kind of working, but I don't know if Edwin was just like, oh, I don't have enough lyrics. This isn't. So Edwin kind of made a unilateral decision. He said, no, he's putting these sessions on ice, finishing it. I'll have to go away and write more songs before we can do another album. And just because he hadn't even consulted us about that, relationships would get fraught. And I'm not as much my fault, Joseph K. and Orange Juice as any of the others. I'm sure I was a complete pain in the arse a lot of the time. So it was just kind of like, oh, well, fuck it. It's not like I didn't really want to be in the band if it was just a sort of dictatorship which it kind of was in a way anyway, but
Yeah. And
unofficially.
did that kind
So-
of feel like the kind of beginning of the end for the
Oh,
band?
that was the end. David
Right.
and I just left,
Yeah.
halfway through the recording of Texas Fever.
Yeah.
So
I think it's, although not a full album, it's my favourite Orange Juice record.
oh, it's my favorite. It's the one
Oh,
I'm proudest of.
it's
Yeah,
outstanding.
yeah.
Was that Martin Hill's as well at the same
No,
studio?
that was Dennis Bovell produced
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
one of
Dennis
them,
Bovell.
one of them's just produced by the band, I think. That one, A Sad Lament.
Mhm.
I can't
Great
remember.
song.
Really
Which
good
is,
song.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorite. I mean, I do
Mm.
very little on it. I just play the organ, but that was done. I think that was pretty much live in the studio. Then Zeke did an overdub of some percussion. Edwin did a guitar overdub and sang it, and that was it. Which again shows, I think, how the band could be. Because it's a really dynamic recording,
Mm.
and that makes me again think it is a shame that band stopped just after that, but because of just personality and frustration and
Yeah. As you say, these things
Yeah.
happen, and
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
part of the thing of growing up as well, isn't it? You do things,
Yeah,
you make mistakes, but the good stuff's good. You celebrate the good stuff, right?
that's right.
You don't
Yeah.
want to lose sight of
And I
that,
think it
right?
spurred Edwin on to make, the last Orange Juice LP, which again is one of my favourite albums of all time, The Orange Juice
Mm-hmm.
with salmon fishing in New York and what presents on it and things.
Yep.
I think he really felt because we'd left the band, he had to make something that was really good and really quite sort of astringent and, slightly left field. And he did,
And I suppose by that time, it almost is a solo record, isn't it?
Yes,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. Because he just went in and did his drum
Yeah.
parts. Then he just left Dennis and Edwin to finish it.
Mhm.
And Edwin kind of, I think, learnt about production making that album as well, working with
Yeah.
Dennis. So, yeah.
So
it's
you
all for the
mentioned
good.
you mentioned a while back, I think the same day you were sort of in Joseph K and then Orange Juice,
Yeah.
pretty much. So when you left Orange Juice, what was the kind of connection to then get into Aztec Camera? How did that happen?
Just Roddy phoned me up one night and said, we've got these gigs. They were around Christmas time, I remember, where I come and play guitar. And, so it was, I mean, again, when they recorded their first single and postcard, I was there as a kind of production assistant. So I was pretty friendly with them both. So that seemed like, oh, great, and it was work,
Yeah.
and the best work I could get at the time. So
Yeah.
whether it was a good thing in the long run, I don't think Roddy ever had. The intention at first wasn't for me to kind of become a member of Aztec Camera. It was just I would go and do these gigs, and then we all kind of enjoyed it. So I carried on, but he didn't really need a second guitarist in the studio or anything, Roddy. I
Yeah.
think, like my son was saying to me, I think I'm maybe the only person who must be other people have played guitar on Aztec Camera records, but it's the only time there was like another guitarist there was that
Yeah.
knife.
It's a
Wow.
good question. I'm
So,
not
so
sure
Craig
there is.
Gannon just played live then?
Yeah, I mean he's
Yeah.
not on Highland Hard Rain or anything.
No. Wow.
No. That's a
Yeah.
good question, actually. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I'm not sure there is another guitarist.
I think there'll be maybe Edwin plays on things and he'll have guests or Mick Jones. Mick Jones
Yeah.
plays.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different, right?
Yeah.
That's different. And so and think, that whole, what is that, like a 2 or 3 year period, I guess, is it, from Joseph K to the Aztec Camera album?
Yeah, well, I
85
kind of
maybe. Yeah,
81 till 84. Yeah,
yeah.
3 years. Yeah, yeah,
That's some 3 year story, that isn't it, Malcolm?
yeah. I know.
You packed a lot in, mate.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Do you look? How do you look back on that? You look back on it fondly now?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, you always, every now and then it'll kind of strike like, oh, that was really stupid. Why did I do that? Why, but that's life, and it's
Yeah.
all.
Have you heard at all from Roddy in passing? Just
No,
we
I've
always
met
ask a question
Rodney.
of our guests whether anyone knows how he's doing.
He's fine. I mean, I saw him maybe 2 years ago,
Okay,
and he was fine.
good.
He was talking about how he was writing songs and
Mhm.
things like this and getting on
Okay,
well. But
good.
I think he's pretty reclusive, really.
Sure. Well, he's entitled
Dave
to his.
Ruffy sees him, and I still see Dave Ruffy quite regularly.
Good. And you're still pretty active as well. You've got more going on
Yeah,
now than you've
I'm
ever
really
done.
enjoying playing
Yeah.
for most of them, really probably since maybe when I was in Orange Juice, because I'm doing stuff with Davy Henderson's new band,
Yeah.
Bubbles.
Bubbles. Yeah.
And then Paul Haig and I have got our Land Surveyor project, which is,
Like two new supergroups.
yeah, well, I'm kind of closing the
Fantastic.
circle of my musical career.
Yeah.
Partnership. Yeah. So,
You'll be able to
yeah.
have your own
I'm really
festival.
enjoying it, really
Yeah.
enjoying it. It's low key in that, and I'm really enjoying their company.
And you've done some gigs, and I think you've got a few more coming up, sort of back end of the summer. I think you're going down to the Lake Districts, I think, with the
Yeah,
Bubbles.
that
Yeah.
Crankin House Festival,
Yeah.
which is great. Yeah. And
Good.
And
Well,
Caroline's at all the gigs.
what's that, sorry?
Caroline Binney's at all the gigs.
I know.
Every time she comes on, she's seen you play.
I know.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Caroline needs a credit,
Does
really.
Carolyn do this with you?
She
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Oh, right,
Don't know why
right.
she's
All
not here
right.
today.
She
Right,
is
okay. Well,
very
Caroline's great,
disappointed she
yeah.
can't make it
But
today.
Caroline doesn't miss many gigs that are worth missing, does she?
She does not. She puts us to shame.
Yeah, I
She
know.
really does. But yeah, Caroline's did the whole Scottish albums thing with us, which has
Oh,
been
brilliant.
great
Right. I didn't
fun.
realise that. I didn't realise that.
So
Right.
she'll be watching this no doubt when it comes out. So,
Right.
well, listen,
Yeah.
we'll go. Well, first of all, thank you again for
No problem.
Orange Juice
Pleasure.
in general and Rip It Up in particular, because I say there's a lot of love out there for it, and it's definitely stood the test of time really well.
I think I said in an email, I'll just say it for the listeners. I feel I was quite flattered and quite proud that Rip It Up has done this because it is the one that lots of Orange Juice fans, it's kind of like, oh, Rip It Up, it's kind of crap, sellout kind of, and I don't think it was,
No, it
like I
wasn't
think if
at all.
people actually listen to it. So yeah,
It's a super eclectic album, and there's not many albums sell out by doing that. They're not.
yeah,
It's quite
yeah.
challenging to listen to, and there's some brilliant songs on it. So no,
Thanks,
not at
Glenn.
all.
Thanks,
No,
Glenn.
we're delighted it made it that far, and it's really nice recognition for it. And good luck
Yep.
with all your new stuff as well, Malcolm. And hopefully we'll
Thank
all
you.
get the chance to say hello
Hopefully
to
come
you.
see you
Of
soon.
course we
Hi.
will. Yeah, and we'll bring
Nice to
Caroline
see you,
if
Colin. Yeah, see you soon.
yeah,
Tell
Caroline
Alan
will be
I
there
said.
for sure.
Right. Thanks a million,
Guaranteed.
Glenn. Thank you.
Malcolm, thank you very much for your time, mate. All the best. Take
No
care.
worries. No
See you,
worries.
mate.
Cheers
Bye.
now. Right.
Over our garden wall, I hear the sirens call. You can have what you want. Yeah, you